Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make my free layered shamrock SVG for St. Patrick's Day. You can download the free cutting file for this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs or follow the link in the description of this video to go straight to the download page. The download comes in a zip folder and you need to unzip this before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've unzipped the folder, open up Design Space and start a new project. Click into Upload along the left and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer or you can drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the file which starts SVG in the file name. The other ones won't load correctly in Design Space, so it's really important you choose the one that starts SVG. And then click and drag it in or use that browse button, and then it should look something like this with all of the layers one on top of the other. If yours looks different and you can see all the layers separated out on the page, that means you've accidentally uploaded the wrong file type. So if that's the case, click cancel down on the bottom and then go back in and make sure you upload the one which starts SVG. And then go ahead and press upload. When the image is in your recent uploads, click on it and then press Add to Canvas. You can use the width and the height boxes at the top of the screen to resize. So for example, if I type 7.5 in there and press enter on my keyboard, it resizes the height as well. If yours isn't doing that, if it's just changing one of them, then make sure your little padlock icon is closed, and if it isn't, if it's open, then just click it to close it. If I click Color Sync over here on the top right, you can see that this is 4 separate shades of green. If you don't have that many bits of green card, you could perhaps cut some of the layers out from yellow or gold instead, and I think that would look really beautiful with the contrast of the green. To change the colour of any of the layers, click back into Layers, click the layer you want to change, and then in the little colour box at the top, you can change it to whatever you want to make it. Just going to undo that as I'll do it in the default colours, and then click Make It when you're ready to cut everything out. You can change the paper size in these drop downs, and you do need to do it for every single colour. So I'm going to go and change all of mine to A4 as that's the type of paper that I have. So you might find for some of them, for example this main one, that it splits it onto 2 pieces. I think that might actually fit on the first page, so let's give it a try. To move a shape onto a different mat, just click on it and then press the 3 little dots in the top left and go Move Object. And then choose the same colour, so my first colour of green, and press Confirm. And now I'm just going to move it about and see if I can fit it on the same sheet. I might not be able to. Design Space may have been correct, but no, I could look. So I rotated that top one and that bottom one. None of the bits are touching, so that's all good, and it will cut it on just one piece. And that's a great tip for saving your cardstock when you're making these types of designs. When you're happy with how everything's looking, click Continue and it will connect to your Cricut machine, and then follow the instructions on screen to get all of the layers cut out from your cardstock. Here are all of my layers cut out, and I've just laid them one on top of each other to check that I'm happy with the colours and to make sure I haven't missed anything. To stick all the layers together, we're going to be using a combination of glue and 3D foam pads. The glue I'm using is called Collall, and I like this because it doesn't wrinkle the paper like some other glues can do. And then to make it easier to stick, I'm going to put it into these tiny little needle tip bottles. Both of these I got on Amazon. And if you can't find the Collall glue, other good brands are Barely Art Glue and Art Glitter Glue. And then to add some 3D elements to part of this design, we're going to add some foam squares. The brand I'm using is Dot and Dab. Again, I get them on Amazon, but any brand of foam squares will do. As there are a lot of thin elements to this design, if your foam squares are really big, you just might need to cut them a bit smaller with a pair of scissors. We're going to work from the bottom and come upwards, so we need to move all of these layers around so that we've just got the bottom 2 left. So I just put these under. So these are my bottom 2 layers, and then for this layer I'm going to add foam pads to the back. When you're adding foam pads to layered designs, You want to make sure you have a good amount on there so that it's going to have a really firm stick, especially for large pieces like this that's going to have all the other layers on top of it, because we need to make sure it's stuck down well enough to the base piece that it's not going to come apart. And also, we need to make sure we put enough foam pads in the middle as well as the outside that it's not going to sag in the middle. I'll show you what I mean in a moment. But for now, I'm just putting my foam pads around the edges of this piece of the shamrock. And now I need to make sure I put some in the middle. You might be tempted to leave the middle empty, but it really is beneficial to add the foam squares because it gives extra stability to all of this space in the middle, and if you don't put any foam squares in there, you might find that the cardstock sort of sags and domes downwards, especially once you put the other layers on top, and it just won't give as good an effect. Let's peel the tops off and then we're ready. Now this is all sticky. Can bring that bottom bit back in, and then I'm going to line this up by placing it where I want it to go and then gently dropping it down to start with. And the reason I do that is it means if I'd messed up and it wasn't quite aligned, I could peel it off quite easily and try again. But I am happy with this, so I'm going to push down to seal all of those foam pads and get them nice and stuck. The next layer for the shamrock is this one. And for this one, it's up to you if you want to use glue or if you want to use your foam squares. I think I'm going to use the foam to just give it that extra little bit of dimension. This one is even narrower than that first one, so you might need to just grab a pair of scissors and cut your foam squares smaller to make sure that none of them go over the edge. If your foam squares go over any of the gaps in the middle or over the edge of the outside, you'll be able to see them when we turn it round and stick it down, and you don't want to be able to see them because it'll look messy. So just take that little bit of time to make sure that you don't have anything overlapping. I'm going to have to cut mine smaller to put some extra around that stem, because if I was to leave that with no foam squares at all, it would just fall downwards because there's nothing to support it. So now it's time to add my foam squares into this base. I'm going to get my scissors and just cut a row of the foam squares in half. And now I can get these teeny tiny pieces and put a few in along the side and also the bit in the middle. And this is why I said that you could glue this layer, because it is really fiddly adding these tiny pieces in. There. Now I can peel the tops off to release all of the sticky. Once again, I'm going to gently put this into position before I actually stick it. So there's that, and then that's looking good. So I'll push down to seal. Oops, and be careful you don't do what I did and catch the bottom of that. I very nearly ripped it then, but luckily it didn't. The next layer is the dark green, which gives it that lovely outline, and this one will be a glue layer. So turn it upside down and get my glue. And this is where the needle tip bottles come in really helpful, as it's super easy to get the glue around this edge. Then simply line it up and stick it down. The nice thing about glue is you have got that little bit of wiggle room if you need to move it about a bit. There we are. Don't push down too hard because you don't want the glue to smush out the sides if at all possible. So I've just sort of gently tapped that down into place. The next layer is this one, and this is going to be a foam pad layer. So I'll turn it upside down and grab the foam. And just like before, line it up, and I'm using this bottom piece to get it into position and then press down. Our last layer is this one to go on top, and this will be a glue layer because it is so narrow and intricate. If you really wanted to, you could use foam, but you'll have to cut it super small. I definitely think glue is easier on this one. There's my glue. So now, being careful not to get glue all over my fingers, just gonna slot that into place and push down. And there we have it, my layered Celtic shamrock. It's all ready. If I tilt it, you can see all of those different layers, and all the shades of green really come together to make a beautiful finished design. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on how to make my layered shamrock SVG for St. Patrick's Day. Don't forget to get the free file, check the link in the description of this video. For more St. Patrick's Day crafts, have a look at my other videos, and I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!